So today is the day where we pray for all of those who have died. Usually the emphasis is in the last year, but it can go beyond that, especially for those who have died in violent or other circumstances that might cause them to hesitate to go to wherever they need to go to next. And I think it's a good reminder both that we are not immortal on this plane of existence, which we know, but we don't really know. Because a lot of times we have this ability as humans to just kind of go, yeah, that's a thing, and just kind of put it over there. Like, yeah, death exists, whatever. You know, there's that whole, it won't happen to me. Or it'll happen later. You know, I'm however many years old and my health is like this and whatever, it's fine. But it's interesting because there's some examples in life where people end up living better or more fulfilling lives once they realize they have something that's going to kill them imminently. Not always, because people are people. Some people have that without having like an illness upon them, and some people have this awakening and realize that they've had their priorities out of order and then fix them before they die. Some people, you know, don't end up with the time to figure that out. Life is weird.
Mm-hmm.
I write fiction novels for fun. I'm only mentioning this because when you're writing a story, there's a beginning, a middle, and end, and everything wraps up nicely. Even if there's stuff that like you're keeping for like the next book, whatever, it still wraps up neatly enough that it feels it's a fulfilling, you know, all-encompassing thing. And sometimes life is like that, and sometimes it just ends on a cliffhanger, and you're like, what just happened? I've had deaths in my life that were both ways, where, you know, when the person dies, it was the you know, the end eclipses of the sentence, sort of like a nice, like, they had a good life, they were in pain, they're in a better place, like, you know, all the things people say, but like, in this case, like, I could clearly see that it's like, okay, they did all the things they wanted in life, it's good. And then there's other times where it's like, somebody dies and it's like, wait, what? And it's like the book ends on chapter 15 instead of 25 and it was supposed to end, and you're like, but that's not a complete story.
Mm-hmm.
And finding ways of dealing with that, I mean, it's different for every person as far as figuring out how to handle both of kinds of deaths. Because even lives where it's like, you know, they died at 95 or whatever, and you know, they had a bunch of kids and, you know, had their life together in the ways that they wanted their life together, or whatever it is, or, you know. Or like my Aunt Myrna, who like had this great career and a husband and no kids, and, you know, her life was exactly the way she wanted it when she died. Like, yeah, it would have been nice if she'd lived longer, but like, you know, she was doing what she wanted with her life. And I don't know. Life and death are both weird.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've gotten off topic, but I don't think I have. All to say, we can find ways while we're alive to figure out what our priorities actually are, find ways of doing that. And that's harder than it sounds, and it doesn't sound that easy in the first place. Especially when you add in the whole, like, you need money to live, and so you have to... And then there, even if you take that piece out, which is a big piece, there's still stuff you have to do in everyday life you don't really want to do. Like, you know, I do not want to clean my house. I need to. I will eventually, because I have to. But, like, you know, there's always stuff that, like, you have to do in order to, like, make other things work or be more bearable. And so it's like, you have to figure out both what your priorities are, but also fit in all the stuff that needs to be done as well. And figure out how to do all of that in the right order so you're not, accidentally, spending all your time cleaning your house and not spending time with your spouse or friends or whatever it is you're going to be doing. So it's all complicated.
Balance.
Yeah, it's one of those things I have not figured out yet. Hopefully in the next 40 years, to quote a country song. I'm also in my 40s, so anyway. I don't think there's anything else I was going to add into this, but mostly it's just, I hope you all have ways of figuring out how to prioritize your life in a way that you won't regret things whenever it is your time to pass through the veil.
For sure.
Because, when people die, they don't ever say, I wish I'd worked more, I wish I'd cleaned my house more.
Wish I had dieted more.
Right. So, yeah, actually this story reminds me of a guy who, he figured out how many weekends he had for the rest of his life if he lived to the average age of male in this part of the US dies at. And he went to all of the stores in his area and picked up as many marbles as he had weekends left in his life.
Nice.
And then every weekend he would throw one of the marbles away as a visual reminder of how much time he had left.
Wow.
And just from doing that, he stopped working weekends. Because
Nice.
he realized he'd rather spend time with his wife and he only had this many marbles left.
Good for him.
And I think that's something too, because when you talk about time, like the rest of your life, it's a really big number. Even if you're, even if you're in your 70s or 80s, there's people live to be 120. Not everyone obviously, but thinking that much time is hard. It's like thinking of a trillion. There's not really a concept for that. So sometimes if you can have a visualization that helps you figure out or realize how much that really is, not even just with life and death, with other stuff too, because I've seen charts of how much money everyone in the US has based on socioeconomic status, and knowing and seeing a graph representing it are two different things almost. So there's also stuff like that where if you're having a hard time conceptualizing this or anything else, try and find as concrete ways as possible to view it, to get a different point of view on it. So yeah, with that, go in peace, and I will work with you.